You're welcome to Environment Today on Africa Independent Television. Now, have you heard about energy efficient air conditioner? Well, if you haven't heard that, this is the place to be because we've got someone who will be analyzing how energy efficient air conditioners can help mitigate the impact of climate change here in Nigeria as it's being done elsewhere in the world. And I'm talking about my guest, who is Etiosa Uyigue. He is the National Coordinator for the Nigeria Sustainable Cooling Project. Now, this project is being implemented in Nigeria by the Energy Commission of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Good to be here.
Now, before we get to what the project is all about, let me tell you a bit more about my guest this morning. Like I told you, he is actually very abreast of all the developments in the energy sector. He is someone who has got over 15 years of experience working in the field of sustainable energy and climate change. He's been active in conducting energy and climate change research and promoting sustainable energy. He has served as the coordinator and national expert in several sustainable energy projects in Nigeria. And what this means is that he's quite vast in this sector and will be telling us a bit more about what this project is all about and how it is being implemented. Now, this project is poised to reduce greenhouse gas emission and promote a healthier environment in Nigeria. The program, of course, has developed a particular standard, and he will be telling us all about that. So welcome to the show once again. Okay, so let's begin by what climate change is all about. You know, if you hear about climate change, sometimes they don't exactly understand how it directly affects them. Just briefly, before we get into the project.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let me start this way. I'll tell you what weather is, then I'll tell you what climate is, then before I tell you what climate change is all about. Weather is the state of the atmosphere at a particular time and at a particular place and time. I'll give you a very simple example. Today is sunny in Abuja. Sometimes it could be rainy. But when you now take the weather condition of a place over a period of time, maybe up to about 100 years, it becomes the climate. For example, for several years, maybe several decades, you could tell when the rain comes, like in where we are now. Rain starts around April, and it ends at about November every year. So we're able to predict. So it has been there for several years. So that's the climatic condition of where we are now in Abuja, the middle belt we are in Abuja. Now, so you now see that there's a pattern. There's already a climatic pattern. And those climatic patterns, they are very vital for us. For example, we practice what we call rain-fed agriculture. So the farmer should be able to predict when the rain comes and when the rain goes, so that they can work within the time frame where you have the rain to cultivate their crops. Now, when there's now a deviation from those patterns, that's what we now call climate change. Yeah, when change happens. For example, if the rain was supposed to come in April, the rain refused to come in April, and the rain is now starting in May or June. So there's a change. There's not a change in the pattern. The pattern has been there for several years, maybe hundreds of years. So when there's not a deviation in it, it becomes climate change. So that's what we mean by climate change.
And to many people, what has that got to do with me as an individual?
Yes, I will explain that. The next question you should ask me is, what is causing the changes? Why is the climate changing? You know, scientists have found out that the human activities, especially when we enter the industrial age, is the major cause of climate change. There are other causes, but the major cause that scientists have reported so far is the emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The most important of these greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide, the one we call CO2. You know, how are they causing the climate change? Now, the concentration of these gases is increasing in the atmosphere. So as it's increasing in the atmosphere, as you know, ordinarily, the rays of the sun is supposed to pass through the atmosphere without necessarily heating up the atmosphere. But when the rays of the sun passes through, because of the concentration, the continuous increase in the concentration of this gas in the atmosphere, they are stopping the rays of the sun. And when the rays of the sun is intersected, heat is released. It's a very simple example. When you park a black car under the sun, you park a white car, check their temperature. You notice that the black car is hotter than the white car.
Seriously?
Yes, the white car reflects the rays of the sun, while the other one intercepts the rays of the sun and heat is released. So because of the presence of these gases in the atmosphere, they are intercepting the rays of the sun, causing the lower atmosphere to heat up the lower atmosphere. So it's increasing the global temperature. And once the temperature defines everything in the atmosphere. For example, when the rain comes, is defined by temperature. The movement of the wind is defined by temperature. Humidity is defined by temperature. So once the temperature is increasing, it is causing an imbalance. It's causing an imbalance in the atmospheric system. The imbalance could be, you see that you can have excess evaporation in certain area, leading to drought, and excess precipitation in some other area, leading to flooding. We remember what happened in the Mokwa recently, when there was flooding in Mokwa. So these are causes, these are the impact, the effect of those climatic changes. Because of the high rise in temperature, there's now imbalance in the climatic system, causing some of these this phenomena, these happenings. What we are seeing in the flooding and the rest of them happening in the atmosphere.
So that's why there's this global trend to deal with this climate change.
Yes. So mitigating it is that how do we now reduce the emission of these gases?
Is that what your project is doing? Because I'm seeing scaling up of energy efficient and climate-friendly cooling in Nigeria.
Yes, let me link it up to that. In the climate change discourse, when we talk about mitigation of climate change, we have two approaches to the mitigation of climate change. The first approach is the promotion of renewable energy. Conventionally, we've been generating electricity from fossil fuel, burning of diesel, burning of gas. Where gas is still very there, it's still very much there. But diesel, another fossil fuel to generate electricity. And of course, every time you burn, you run it. For example, the electricity you are enjoying here now is an emission going on somewhere. Either they are burning gas or burning diesel to give you this electricity. And as you are burning there,
you are generating some of the greenhouse gases
they are going into the atmosphere. Because the law of matter is that matter can never be destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred from one form to the other. So once you burn fossil fuel, you burn petrol, burn diesel, it goes into the atmosphere as gases, mostly carbon dioxide. Then the other one is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency simply means trying to provide some services using less energy to do that. I'll give a simple example that you will understand. You remember before this time, we have these yellow bulbs, the incandescent light bulbs. Some of them go for 100 watts, 200 watts, But now there are better technology.
They seem to be fading away, really.
Yeah, they are fading away. Of course, they have to fade away. So, but there are better technology. We have the LED, light emitting diodes right now. Some of them 10 watts. And you will get even the same luminosity or even better luminosity. So we are now encouraging people to go for technology that is less efficient.
That
saves energy. Of course, once you save energy, you save energy, you make it available to somebody else in the national grid. And once you save energy, the need for people to build more power stations to provide electricity to people will be reduced. And government will spend less on generation to do that. So you will do it as an individual in a small scale. But when we look at when you do it on a large scale, millions, 2 million, 4 million people do that. They save 10 watts every day. It goes into megawatts. Yes, what we are generating currently in Nigeria is not enough. But when we now use it efficiently, more people will have access to electricity.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the idea.
All right, so tell us a bit more about this project. How long has this project been on, and what has been the impact in the society? Okay,
we started in 2022. It's been there for about 3-4 years, if I'm not, yes, about 3-4 years. The title of the project is Scaling Up Energy Efficient and Climate-Friendly Cooling in Nigeria. Of course, we also had to incorporate the NDC. NDC means the Nationally Determined Contributions. We have to also integrate it into the Nigeria's NDC. There are two components we are looking at in that project: the direct emission and indirect emission. Let me start with the indirect emission. When you promote energy efficiency, you reduce energy demand, okay? And when you reduce energy demand, it's also translating as also reducing greenhouse gas, the greenhouse gas what you would have used to, the energy you are used to generate that, you are reducing that. Then the second aspect is the direct emission. Direct emission, we are looking at the refrigerants. The refrigerants in the AC system, air conditioning system has the cool usually what we call refrigerants. They are gases, mostly CFCs, HFCs, and some other, we are going into hydrocarbon right now.
All those job-breaking names, chlorofluorocarbons.
Yeah, chlorofluorocarbon and the rest of the, yes. So now, those refrigerants, some of them have what we call ozone depleting potential. In other words, when you emit them into the atmosphere, they react with the ozone system. There's a layer called ozone, the ozone layer that protects the earth from dangerous radiation from the sun. So these gases react with that ozone layer, depleting that ozone layer. And once you do that, it allows those dangerous radiation to come into the sun. Then, of course, some of them also have what we call global warming potential. They also have the potential to cause climate change. So part of what the project is also doing is to address that area. Instead of using gases that have high global warming potential, let's go for gases with low global warming potential in our refrigerator. Because many of our technicians that repairs the ACs do not know what many of them do when you want to change your gas. The old gas that's in your system, they just emit it into the atmosphere, not knowing the danger it is to the the causes, the impact on the atmosphere. So these are parts. So the project is addressing those two parts: the indirect emission in terms of reducing energy demand, and the direct emission in terms of promoting the use of gases that have low global warming potential. So the main objective is to accelerate the use or adoption of these energy efficient air conditioners. And our approach is very simple. The first approach is we have to look at what comes into the market. How to regulate what comes into the market. So the best way to do that is to develop what we call minimum energy performance standards. What do I mean by that? For every product that comes into the market, the government should regulate the energy consumption of that product. Not anything, any product can come in. We don't regulate what that product, the energy consumption of that product. So the standard is to help regulate, minimize as much as possible the energy that that product takes or consumes from the national grid or wherever the sources is coming from. Right now, we're having a lot of collapse, a lot of issues because the demand is high, the demand for electricity is high. Meanwhile, the facilities sometimes cannot take those demands. So it will also optimize our grid system. So the MEPS have been developed already? Yeah, the MEPS have been developed. Like I said, we're very empirical in our approach. So we make a recommendation to the SON. So SON now take this process, the standard development process, work with stakeholders, took it to the standard development process, and the MEPS were approved. The MEPS were approved late 2024. Yes. And what's the level now, really, of the MEPS, and how do people migrate into that? Are the manufacturers and other stakeholders carried along in this process? Yes. Of course, interestingly, SON is to facilitate the process. Standards are actually developed by stakeholders. But what SON does is to facilitate the process. And once this process is gone through, the Gazette, they do the Gazette and print out the standard. Of course, when it comes to enforcement, it's the responsibility of SON to do the enforcement of the standard. You see, the process is a phased-out process. We are not going to. It's not like an attack ban, But what the MEP does is that once the standards are once they have been enforced, once the enforcement begins, okay, naturally the conventional the inefficient air conditioner will naturally phase out over time out of the system. Okay, so before we let you go on the program, what is your advice to Nigerians who are watching you on this program now regarding how to key into this energy efficiency in every aspect of their lives? Yeah, my advice for Nigerians is, you see, many times when we want to buy any appliance or equipment, we look at there are so many indices we look at. But I think the most important one is the energy consumption of that product. Nigerians should learn to look at the energy consumption first, because that is what going to tell on your pocket.
Is it labeled?
Yes, really? Labeled, yes. Okay. Yes, of course, the MEPS. Yeah, let me also say this, yes. The MEPS also comes with an energy label. It's part of the standard. So what happens is the manufacturer will have to, for every product they bring into the market, they have to use the standard, the energy label, stick it to the product so that end user can can see the energy consumption of that product.
So for anyone who has been buying products without checking, the label, you should start doing that now. Particularly when it comes to ACs, air conditioners.
Yes, that's what I said. Yes.
All right, Chumos, thank you very much for your time with us on the program. It's a pleasure. We've been speaking with Etiosa Uyigue, the National Coordinator for the Nigeria Sustainable Cooling Project. Of course, this project is being implemented by the Energy Commission of Nigeria. A standard has already been developed. Enforcement starts in 2026, he says. And manufacturers and, of course, producers and importers of air conditioners should key into this standard to avoid penalties. Thank you so much for your time once again. And we wish you the very best as you go on with making Nigeria energy efficient. All right, we'll be back after this break.